a local legend, and I am not being bold in making that statement. Everyone that knows Eddie Conyers knows that this guy is a Bama football tradition in himself, and he is with us this week and every Friday during the football season, courtesy of Just Add Shutters. Shutters, shades, blinds, and repairs right here in Tuscaloosa. They've got them all, including those fantastic plantation shutters, exterior shutters, fabric shades. Give them a call at 205-752-3476 and spruce up your house by just adding shutters. All right, let's jump out on the Bud Light Hotline with the man, the myth, the legend himself, 91 years young, Eddie Conyers. Good morning, Mr. Conyers.
Hey, Gary, can I get in on that football trivia?
You can. Just be listening at 10:15, brother, and you can give it a go. I had a really good question yesterday. I asked for all the starting quarterbacks during the Alabama Nick Saban era, minus, of course, Blake Barnett, who started one game, and Cooper Bateman, who started one game. But it was John Parker Wilson, Greg McElroy, A.J. McCarron, Blake Sims, Jacob Coker, Jalen Hurts, and Tua Tagovailoa. I thought that was a pretty good question.
Well, that's a pretty good lineup there, buddy.
And you've seen them all. And you've seen them going back a lot longer than that. Again, folks, Mr. Conyers has been a practice official at the University of Alabama since when? When did Coach Bryant make that call to you, Eddie?
Well, actually, it was Corny Lashley, who was Coach Bryant's kind of right-hand man.
Mm-hmm.
Now you would call him Director of Football Operations. But he called trying to find a friend of mine named Gordon Pettis, who was in the SEC.
Know him, yeah, or knew him,
and
yeah.
Gordon had gone out to Alabama practice the year before, and Gordon had moved to Birmingham. And when I told Corny that, he panicked, and he said, I got to have an official today, and I think he just took me as just a last-ditch effort. But that was 1962. That's a long time, Gary.
It is a long time, and you've let me see. Let me see if my memory is on this one. I rattled off those quarterbacks. So you started with Coach Bryant.
Yeah.
You went through Coach Perkins, Coach Curry, Coach Stallings, Coach DuBose, Coach Franchione. A little bit of action in the spring with Coach Price, Coach Shula, and now Coach Saban. So you have bookended two of the greatest coaches in college football history. Did you ever think about that, Eddie, when you're out there on that practice field, that I'm one of the few people that are alive that had a on-the-field association with Coach Bryant and an on-the-field association with Coach Saban? That's something special.
Yeah, that's something to really think about, yeah, and that was quite impressive. I remember the first time I went up to Coach Bryant that first day, and one of the little managers came and said, Coach Bryant wants to talk to you. And Gary, as you probably know it was scary to go up. And I remember I was totally intimidated, and I asked Coach Bryant what he wanted me to do, and he mumbled something, and I remember I didn't have a clue what he said. I just said, yes, I'll do it. I heard him say offense, so I wouldn't stay with the offensive team. But, come to think of it, someone I'll look into it, he may have been one of the first to come up with the idea of having official at his practices with the rationale, if we get penalties, let's get them on the practice field, run the ball game. I really don't know that, but I don't know. He was very innovative in a lot of things he did, and that he could have been one of the first. I know he had to be one of the first. He may have been the first to do that. I'm
sure he was. Hey, Mr. Conyers, I didn't solicit phone calls, but with your popularity, people are calling in. You want to take a phone call or two?
Only from the ladies.
All right, Tom, you're out of luck then. Now, we'll go ahead. We're going to, if you want to ask Mr. Conyers a question, now, if you're a lady, you get moved to the front of the line.
Hey, Gary.
Just say it. Yeah.
Please, Eddie, not Mr.
All right. If you want to talk to Eddie and you're a lady, you get moved to the front of the line at 205-342-9904. That's the number on the Bud Light Hotline. I'm telling you, folks, Eddie's this funny all the time. Tom's not a lady, and he's not going to be able to get by and get his tickets today, but we're still going to put him on the air. That's how nice I am. Tom, you're on with Eddie Conyers.
Morning, Mr. Eddie. Morning, Gary. And I apologize, Gary. The next time I get in a contest, I'm going to call home and check before I get involved, because that I didn't know what all was going on with my family this weekend, so I apologize. Really sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We'll give them away in the next segment. What you got for Eddie?
I wanted to ask Mr. Eddie, when you're refereeing the practice, and the ones are going against the ones out there. I want to know, do you have to make a lot of holding calls against our offensive line when they're going against our best defensive line?
We have 4 officials come out. I try to the umpire, the one that's right behind the defensive team, is the one that normally calls all those holding penalties. And I try to have a real good umpire there, but holding is, as everybody knows that looks at football, you could have holding every play. You just try to guard. If the guy absolutely grabs the guy and pulls him to the ground, certainly that's going to be holding. But in all honesty, in all fairness, you could pretty well call it.
Yeah.
At every play.
Eddie, I think
we get more holding calls than anybody in the country, and nobody holds our defense, the best defensive line in the world, and nobody holds them, and it's a mystery to me.
Yeah, I believe this is a true Alabama fan, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, Eddie. Hey, listen, you
got to admit it's just. I'm not saying I'm a good referee or anything like that, but my God, I mean, we never get a call.
Well, I've done it. I don't mean to sound like no expert here or anything, but I've done it so long, and I've run it out statistically. If you have more offense, you'll have more penalties. More penalties occur on offense than on defense. So statistically, if a team gains 400 yards in offense, they'll have roughly 80 yards in penalties.
Oh, gotcha. So the more
400 yards in offense and have maybe 40 yards in penalties.
The more prolific you are, the more penalties.
Yeah. So Alabama may get a lot, but Alabama's obviously on offense more and more. So
hey, Tom, let me tell you this too. Since Coach Saban's a defensive coach, he's accused Eddie of never throwing a penalty on the offense in practice. That's the rumor.
I heard him say that in some of the videos that we've been allowed to watch, and but I'll tell you what, who can question somebody that started with Coach Bryant and is still around? I mean, he's good if he lasted that long. Thank you, Eddie.
Tom. Thank you for calling in. Hey, Eddie, I do want to follow up. I want to follow up on the holding thing because I hear this from Alabama officials all the time, and I think why he asked that question, he's wanting to know if they're getting holding penalties in practice against that D-line because they got 3 of them against Duke last week. But it does seem, I think, for Alabama fans, and as you know, being an official, you catch it from all sides, you always remember the penalties that you get called against you. You don't necessarily remember the penalties that go in your favor. But it does seem like, to the casual fan, that Alabama gets more holding penalties called against them than the other team gets called against them when they're playing Alabama's very talented defensive line. Now, is that just perception? And you said when you're prolific on offense, you get more offensive penalties, but do you think there's anything to that?
I know most of the SEC officials, and they're all quality people, of course, headed up by Steve Shaw. We're very fortunate to have someone like him in the SEC. But no, it's just, I think just, Gary, it's an old axiom in football officiating is you see everything you call, but you don't call everything you see.
Right.
And Alabama, by being on offense, of course, a prolific passing team, most of the holding occurs on passing. Like when we played the Citadel here last year, they only threw a pass. Well, they're not going to get any holding penalty. Here's Alabama with Tua and those great quarterbacks. Our propensity to get holding is just probably higher.
Eddie Conyers with us, longtime Alabama practice official, Bama football legend. He's going to appear each week courtesy of Just Add Shutters. Shutters, shades, blinds, and repairs. Call 205-752-3476 if you want to spruce up your house. I want to ask you about the game last week. Sluggish first quarter, maybe as expected with the suspensions and still a little bit of a hangover, I think, with the Dylan Moses injury. But Bama wins at 42-3 in Atlanta against Duke. What did you think about the Tide's performance in that one, Eddie?
Oh, that's totally 100% behind it, obviously, and they did, and they're playing a pretty good ball club, and of course those suspensions in the first game, you have first game jitters, and I think teams that play Alabama try to follow that Citadel pattern of trying to maintain possession of the ball, and it kind of limited us, but Alabama's obviously a great football team. And,
I've got a tough question for you, but I want to get your opinion because you've been around it so long, going back to really before TV was a major player in college football, and most of the college football programs, universities set their kickoff times. I'm getting a lot of pushback, a lot of negativity regarding the 3 o'clock kick tomorrow with the fact that it's going to be 96, 97 degrees. And we know that that's not Alabama's decision. You make the deal with the television networks, you need the money, and they dictate the kickoff time. But how disappointing from a fan perspective, and the fans certainly talk to you a lot, is it that you have to have the money, but that you turn over basically the control of your own games to television in regards to the kickoff times, and now you're having to play in the heat of the day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on one of the hottest days of the year?
Well, that's one of the necessary evils of television today is they dictate those sort of things, and you're kind of bound by it. But I can understand certainly Gary, it's going to be hot at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be hot at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. But obviously, we'd all rather play that 2:30 game, but that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, that's just the reality of it. And I've been telling people the same thing I know you tell them. You know, I'm not going to tell people they should go to the game. That's their business. But if you got tickets and you're not using them, get them in the hands of somebody that will. Because there are people that want to go to these games, and if you're not going to use your tickets, give them to somebody that will, right?
You better believe that. A true Alabama fan will be there, certainly. And I think they'll show up in droves tomorrow.
All right, every week we do this, we're gonna tie in some of your great stories. I don't want to use them all up in the first week, but before we close out, this team, you've watched them all through fall camp. You watched them prepare for the season. You watched every great Alabama team that's come through here since 1962. This one, in your opinion, potentially, is it a team that can bring home the 18th national championship?
Certainly. They have, you got offense, defense, and kicking, and Alabama is strong in all three of those areas, and certainly have a lot of teams. We got quarterbacks that a lot of teams would give anything in the world to have, and with Tua and Mac, and Tua's brother, by the way, looked real good coming on, and I'm sure I think he'll be redshirted. But Alabama, the kicking, the Richard, I hope I'm saying that correctly. The guy from Hoover,
Reichard, yeah.
Yeah, Reichard, I wouldn't say Richard. His kicking is just a real big plus, and he's a great punter. So you got offense, defense, and the kicking game. We're pretty good in all three of those areas, so certainly we'll be a contender.
Yeah, you mentioned Tua. What a phenomenal quarterback and passer he is. And, of course, Jalen had a history-making debut at Oklahoma. You were out there for all the practices. Those players love you. You intermingle with them. There have been some people, for whatever reason, I don't even understand it, that kind of, even last year when they were on the same team, tried to kind of make this a Jalen versus Tua deal. The players didn't. The coaches didn't. Nick Saban didn't. And, Jalen showed nothing but class and came on to win the SEC championship game for Alabama. You saw those guys interact together. Unlike some of the fans, Tua and Jalen, I've been told by people who are very close to the program, they got along great, didn't they?
Well, if you could see Tua at the end of the game when Jalen scores in the Georgia game, how he grabbed Jalen and just tugged it, certainly they were great friends and great admirers of each other's ability. Two really fine people. By the way, on another note here, I told Tua the other day his brother's a lot better than him. I said every time he touches the ball, we score a touchdown.
1 for 1, isn't he? Hey, you think
he's a lot better than you?
You think Tua will win the Heisman this year?
He gets my vote.
Yeah, I mean, I told some people if he didn't win it last year, but if he keeps putting up numbers like he put up last week, and Alabama has the kind of season that I believe they're going to have, he's going to win it. I mean, if you're the best player on the best team, and you lead them to, of course, the vote's done before the playoff, but you get them to Atlanta again and win an SEC championship and go to the playoff, he's going to win the Heisman. That's my opinion. Hey, Eddie, we're just getting cranked up good. We'll have you on every Friday. And listen, folks, this is not the end of Eddie's media weekly appearances with me. He'll be on Crimson Tide Kickoff tomorrow. Those little clips they shot for you on TV with that show, they're great. Did you enjoy doing those?
Oh, that was fantastic. I appreciate y'all doing that. That was thoroughly enjoyable.
And, of course, I know you're a big fan of Just Add Shutters, too.
Oh, yeah. Very Very much so.
Get out there and get you some. I'm serious. If you want to spruce up your house, Just Add Shutters, 205-752-3476. And I know that Bubba, I'm still waiting for him, Eddie, to send me some more information on getting the spot done. But I do want to mention Royce and Sam that work with Bubba Conyers at Just Add Shutters. They do an incredible job, and Bubba wanted to make sure that I pointed those guys out, Royce and Sam, because they work really hard, and Just Add Shutters is a tremendous company, and they are the reason that we get to visit with the great Eddie Conyers every Friday here on the Gary Harris Show. Thank you, sir.
Gary, my pleasure.